Hi, primary families. This is Taryn Bond-Clegg, assistant principal in the primary school and PYP coordinator. For those of you who are interested, I'm going to go through our feedback from our parent community in depth and just share some of the results and the ways we are actioning and responding those results. So thanks for joining me. For the question, how is your family doing overall? For any of our primary families who self identified as wanting some help and support, our primary counselor, Miss Tanya, has reached out to those families. And for our families who self identified as needing some help in general with distance learning, they have been contacted by Joe to offer some support and guidance with that. For those families who are looking for support with distance learning, I will also share a place on the distance learning site with you. So if you go to primary school and if you go to support for families, there are some short video tutorials that you can watch that go through things like how to understand the planner, the different parts of the planner, how to make use of office hours so that your children are contacted and in contact with their teacher, and also some information about Seesaw, um, about Epic, Common Sense Media. So this support for family section is a great place for finding ways that you can help yourself to understand our distance learning program. So, with the question about figuring out the amount of learning, we had about 60% of our families say that the amount was just right, and in and around 20% on either end saying it was either too much, too little. So, we have shared this data with the teachers who are the ones doing the planning to be able to reflect on the families who are thinking it's too much or too little. And we are coaching and guiding them in their planning to find that happy medium to hopefully develop distance learning plans that are just right for a larger chunk of the population. There are also some things that you can do as families to help if you're feeling like it's too much or too little. So, for those of you who are feeling like the amount of learning at the moment is too much, I would encourage you and your children to focus primarily on the core and the specialist activities on the planner, and feel no pressure or obligation to engage in the choice extensions or the personal inquiry or passion project. Similarly, I would encourage you to use that Friday primarily for catching up if your child needs some more time for their learning tasks. And again, don't feel any pressure or obligation to go further or to do a personal inquiry or passion project. Definitely spending the time on the core learning activities from the homeroom and from the single subject specialist teachers would definitely be a suggestion for families and learners who are feeling like it was too much. Another structure that we think will help with learners who are feeling like it's too much. So this week we started office hours. And these are available across the grade level. So I'm going to use grade 2 as an example. So any learner in grade 2 could click on any of these office hours for the adults in their grade level for help and support. So if I'm a learner in grade 2 and Monday morning I am having trouble or I don't understand or I feel overwhelmed, I can just click on this link. And I'll be taking to Miss Kathy and Miss Albertina. Now, with the drop-in office hours, like popping in on someone, if they're supporting someone else, then you have the option to wait in the waiting room a little bit or check back in a little bit later. But it's replicating those opportunities in classes where the learner is able to go up to the teacher or the TA and say, "Hey, I need a little help." And if they're free, then they're able to offer that just-in-time help. And if they're not free, just like in real life, then they might have to wait a few minutes or check back in when the teacher is free. And this pop-in support is available for homeroom. Oh, sorry, I'm scrolling too fast. For Portuguese, for PE, for performing arts, and for visual arts. So we encourage your children and you to make use of these kind of drop-in supports as much as you need. There are also opportunities to make appointments for support and schedule those in. So if your child feels like they'd benefit from a little bit of one-on-one help, they can send an email to any of their homeroom teachers or their single subject teachers or their learning support teachers. And we'll be able to coordinate an appointment for support as well. For learners and families who are on the other end of the spectrum, feeling like the learning that was sent home in the first week was too little, um, again, we're coaching and working with our teachers to figure out ways that they can um, respond to that in the plans. But there are also some things that you can do as families for that. So if your child or your family feels like the learning was not enough, then definitely checking out the choice extensions is a great place to start. So in all of the planners, all of the homeroom and specialist subject teachers provide options for those learners who are looking for more and have time for more to be able to choose to do more. So there will be some suggestions for extensions in their homeroom subjects and also in their single subjects. So throughout the week, if your child or your family is looking for more and feeling like it's too little, definitely check out the extensions. And then also, personal inquiry and passion project is another great way for those learners who are looking for something more. So, on the planners, there are some guiding questions about how learners can inquire into the things that they're interested in and passionate about. And I'm currently in the process of recording a support video for learners. So, as of next week, learners will be able to click a link here for Ms. Taryn's tips about personal inquiry and passion project. And we're also offering Miss Monica is offering support on Fridays for those learners who would like some help with their personal inquiry and passion projects, specifically finding resources for the things they're trying to learn about or how to do. So, starting next week, you will see that there is a slot on Fridays for learners to connect with Miss Monica for the support for the personal inquiry. So, we're hoping that with the work that Joe and I are able to do with the teachers and also with helping point learners and families in the direction of how to make choices about the options and the structure, the flexible structure of our learning, that we're able each week to have more and more learners and families feeling like the amount is just right. So this is the data we received about interactive Zoom meetings. So you can see that it was pretty close split between families who thought it was just right and others that thought it was not enough. So Joe and I are triangulating this data with the perspective of the teachers and also with this perspective of the learners. So the parent feedback is definitely a piece of the pie in deciding whether we keep it to once a week or we fold in more opportunities. So we're still waiting for some of the data to come back on that. And when we have it, we'll be able to make an informed conclusion that's data driven about next steps with regards to the community meetings. This was the response when it came to choice extensions. Again, so the choice extensions really connects and links to those learners who are feeling like they would like to learn more or have more time to learn. So we definitely urge learners and families who are in that situation to make use of the choice extensions. And as I mentioned on the other side, if learners and families are feeling like it's too much, then we definitely want learners and families to feel no pressure or obligation to embark on the choice extensions, as those are extra opportunities for learning and not required for all learners. We had about 30% of our learners try our ASAs and about 71% who didn't. So, just so that everyone knows where to find it, on the distance learning site, after school activities has its own section. And you can see that there are different activities for learners based on grade levels. So, again, for those learners and families who are feeling like it was too little, the after school activities can be another great way to complement and extend the learning that's happening. You can see that there's a lot of connections to science and engineering and math, PE, arts, language activities, puzzles and challenges. So, again, for those families who are looking for more, this is a great opportunity to check out. In terms of qualitative data, these were some of the trends and themes in the data. So, of course, everyone provides their feedback with their own personal perspective. And then what Joe and I were able to do was look at what were the trends and the themes that were emerging. So some of the highlights were the teachers. We were really happy to hear that they were supportive and available and kind and committed and helpful. We're glad to hear that some families felt the flexibility of the program was a benefit, some positive feedback about the actual planner, structures like morning messages, community meetings, some really cool and interesting feedback. Parents who noticed that the distance learning program was helping them understand their children as learners and also understand the learning that's happening. Some cool feedback about new tech tools and skills being developed. Of course, evidence of learners growing in independence and resilience through this system. Opportunities for parent and teachers to Zoom and connect. And also, a lot of families commented on being grateful for suggestions to keep kids moving, because we know it can be very tempting for us all to be sedentary as we are learning and working from home, many of us. With regards to what can be improved, these were kind of the 14 main trends that Joe and I are working on and responding to. So if you're interested, I will talk you through some of our thinking for these suggestions and what it will look like moving forward. So the first piece about more flexibility when the learning is complete, we just want to really emphasize to families that all of the suggested structures and the suggested dates are just that, they're suggestions. So if you are a family and you feel that when you get the plans on a Friday, if Saturday and Sunday are the best days for you as a family to start tackling some of that learning, please feel free and supported to do that. If you as a family feel that late afternoons and evenings are more effective to do some of those learning tasks, go for it. The reason that we planned so much asynchronous learning experience is for that exact reason, so that learners and families have the flexibility to complete the learning at different times. So please feel supported to do what makes sense for your family with regards to the when of those learning plans. And our suggestions about times and dates are just that, suggestions. Of course, that doesn't apply to the synchronous activities, which are more set and concrete in dates and times. But the other learning activities, please do what makes sense for your family in the circumstances that you're in. Another big piece of feedback was more interaction between teachers and learners. We have taken a step to rectify that already. We have the drop-in Zoom office hours that I showed you, where the learners are able to click on a single subject teacher or on a homeroom teacher to have that just-in-time live interaction that they would have in the classroom. We are also thinking about different ways for small group opportunities, and I'm starting to develop those. We will let you know once we have some solid plans for what those opportunities might look like. And that connects to the interaction between learners as well. How can we build in some optional opportunities for learners and families who are looking for that without having it be something else extra for the families that are feeling like it's too much? So we're working on some ideas and should be ready to share with you soon. Community meetings, there was some feedback about more structure and more focus on learning. And that makes sense because the feedback was collected after everyone's first community meeting ever, which was a little bit more unstructured, and the learners were getting used to it, the teachers were getting used to it. But we are seeing through our observations of community meetings that many of them are starting to find a structure and connecting more with learning. And that's something we will continue to coach and support teachers with, to learn from each other and find the routines and structures in those community meetings to make that time really purposeful. Same thing with the morning messages. So after 1 week, there was some reflection about a need for more overview of learning for the day. So that's some feedback that we've passed on to teachers so that they're able to build that into their morning messages. We've shared with teachers the request to be more conscious of materials, ingredients, whether it's access to materials for art or PE, or whether it's ingredients that are also needed as food at the moment. So we've taken that feedback and we've shared it with teachers so that they're able to action it. Similarly, with the feedback planning activities for less adult support and less screen time, we have fed those two pieces of feedback back to teachers to action it. The large amount of emails that parents are getting, we also addressed that in our staff meeting on Thursday and set some boundaries about when emails are appropriate and kind of tightening that up and limiting it a little bit. With regards to support for language learners, there's a few different layers for that we can offer. If you are a family and your child is looking for support with their English language learning, and you as parents predominantly speak Portuguese, then using some of our amazing bilingual teaching assistants can be really helpful for that. So many of our teaching assistants speak both English and Portuguese, so they would be a great person to either schedule a meeting with or drop in on their office hours and use their ability to translate some of the English plans into Portuguese so that the parents can understand it, or so the learners, if they speak Portuguese, if that's their first language, might be able to understand it. On the other side, for learners who are looking for support with their Portuguese language learning, but their parents aren't Portuguese speakers, then the office hours of their Portuguese teachers would be the best fit for that. So if I'm a parent and I don't speak Portuguese, it will obviously be difficult to help my learner with their learning task. But what I could do is help them join the office hours or reach out to a Portuguese teacher for a little bit of help and support with that. We had some feedback about changes to the actual planner. And we're thinking about that. Some interesting ideas about having a checklist, an end of the week checklist, different shifts that we can make. Again, that's something that we want to triangulate with learner feedback and teacher feedback to be able to really make a data-driven decision. So please know that we're taking your ideas about changes to the planner, and then we're in the process of having some in-depth conversations about what steps we want to take. Similarly with uploading videos and the tools and the systems and the routines for that, we are working on refining it and tightening that up a little bit. With regards to continuing to ask for parent survey feedback, we definitely will continue to reach out to parents more frequently at the beginning of distance learning so that we're able to not only get feedback, but then also measure the impact of the changes that we make. So please stay tuned within the next week or so for a second request for some feedback from you about the changes we make and what's going well and what still needs to be improved. And then also some feedback about update on learners' progress. The teachers are finding their flow with the volume of Seesaw posts and being able to respond. Also using opportunities like pre-scheduled Zooms with learners and families to be able to connect if there are any suggestions or concerns about learning, and just that kind of two-way communication, keeping it open between parents and learners. And as always, as parents, you are welcome to email any of your children's teachers and initiate that Zoom with them if you have specific questions about their progress and their growth. So hopefully that was helpful and not too long. Just to be very transparent and let you know that we appreciate your feedback. We are taking it seriously. We are spending time analyzing it and drawing conclusions from it, triangulating it with faculty feedback and learner feedback, and are taking small, medium, and big steps to make changes right away and also in the future as we continue to learn and grow. So thank you very much for being partners in this distance learning experience. And thank you for your time with your feedback and listening to this video. I hope it was helpful.